Released in 2015, this family-friendly film, directed by Paul King, is based off a popular children's book series, with stars such as Sally Hawkins and Hugh Bonneville, as well as Michael Gambon, Imelda Staunton, and Ben Whishaw all lending their voices. This film and its 2018 sequel would go on to collectively gross more than $500 million worldwide. This week on You've Never Seen It, we're grabbing our Marmalade sandwiches and chatting all about Paddington and Paddington 2. Welcome to You've Never Seen It, an audio podcast where I am on a mission to never hear those four words again. I am your host, Allison Salamone, and joining me today to talk about these two films is co-host for the upcoming podcast, the podcast that makes you old, with AJ, Jack, and Geoff Alterman. Hi, Geoff.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. This is only like the third time I've done this. It's fine because I forgot to hit record.
Yeah, she really typoed this whole thing.
Sure did.
Like we had the intro, we did it, and she's like, "Hold on a moment, I didn't hit record." And I said, "You literally said you hit record before we started."
It made me hit it. I forget it makes you hit it twice. It's fine. We're here now. We're talking Paddington and Paddington 2, which have to be the most adorable movies I have seen this year.
Does that include you having seen Marcel the Shell with Shoes on?
I have seen Marcel the Shell with Shoes on. He's number one. Marcel's number one. And then literally right behind that is Paddington.
For me, it's Paddington 2, then Marcel, and then Paddington.
I could see that. But Marcel's in the number one slot still for me. But
I totally understand.
Before we even get into that, Geoff, what I would love to hear from you. First of all, welcome to the podcast. I'm glad you're here. We've been talking about doing these movies and talking about these movies for a while. And what better time to talk about Paddington and Paddington 2 than after a month of spooky movies? Because I need something lighthearted.
Mm-hmm. I get it. I've been binging through all sorts of, slashers and serial killer and horror spooktaculars. And then it's like, oh, and also this cute bear from Darkest Peru. There's nothing dark about these movies except for the villain's plot in the first movie and the fact that Peru is dark.
Exactly. I went from talking for 2 hours with PJ Campbell on the Evil Dead trilogy to Paddington. So it's great. That's my favorite part about all this. There's literally the most rhyme or reason that I've had to movies is what I did in October. And even then I split up the month with Prometheus, which is not, it is horror in some way, but not really.
It's horror tinge. It has horror elements in it, especially, the birthing scene and all that stuff. There's horror related elements in that. It stems from Alien, which is a horror film.
Right. Exactly.
So I get it. Horror is definitely one of the genres for Prometheus.
For sure. And it is a movie.
Horror is not one of the genres that one would associate with Paddington.
Not at all. But again, before we kind of get into it, I want to know let's talk about you and kind of where your love
talk about me.
Where I know it's putting you around the spot, but where your love of movies came from and kind of just and why do you like watching them and why did you want to talk about these movies with me?
So as far as my love of movies, it's very difficult for me to pinpoint exactly when I was like this. This is the thing that amongst everything I will hyperfixate on. This is the thing that I will focus on the most. And, for a long time, my parents called me Rain Man because of how much I focused on him. And then I saw Rain Man and I was like, that's actually an insult. Uh, but yeah, I don't know exactly when it was. I just always remember loving movies and watching them, and just everything about them. It just fascinates me. I'm constantly reading on all the box office stuff and paying attention to the news. Occasionally things slip by me only because as more people get involved in the industry, more projects are out there, more studios. There's so much out there that I miss, and even then I get surprised by possible, like when like a trailer drops. Like I had no idea that like David Harbour was going to be Santa Claus until the trailer dropped. I'm like, really? How did I miss this? Like it happens, but for the most part, I mean, it's just something that I pay attention to every day. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Pay attention to my wife, my cats, my family,
my job, my income? Never.
Exactly.
Only movies.
I need to actually pay attention to that income so that way I can buy more movies.
Yeah.
Always buy physical media if you can. I remember when I was much younger, I don't know what the first movie I ever owned was, but I remember a time where my parents, I believe it was my mom, she had gotten 2 VHSs, and she put them behind her back, and my brother and I had to choose which one we would each get. That would be, quote unquote, ours. Mm-hmm. Even though of course, it's just us. It's in our house. I'm a child. He's a child. Ours. And I chose one of the hands. And in there, if I'm not mistaken, and I could easily be misremembering, I chose The Mask with Jim Carrey.
It's a fun one.
The other option, Eddie Murphy, The Nutty Professor.
Oh.
So, yeah, like that's what I think one of the earliest memories I have of like having a movie that's mine. I didn't know like what it was to record a movie on TV, like a VHS, except my papa, Michael, would love to record movies and just mail them to me. Or if I went and visited, he would just hand them to me. And so that's how I ended up watching my first R-rated movie, because he was like, "Oh, hey, let me give you this animated movie that I recorded." It was South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Nice.
Or yeah, and I mean, like one time he just sent me a DVD in the mail. I didn't know what it was at the time because I wasn't paying attention at that time to like movies and stuff. And you know what it was? It was Bad Boys 2.
That's great. What a great.
I was 11.
And had you seen Bad Boys, the first Bad Boys?
No.
That is even better.
Even better. Yeah, the first DVD I ever owned, I remember very clearly. I hadn't seen the first one in theaters of this, but we went and we bought a combination VHS DVD player and set it up in our family room area on our 26-inch television, which was the big TV in the house at the time. With the real thick back on there. Yeah. Makes Sir Mix-a-Lot head spin with the back on that movie. And it was Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring.
Okay.
And as a child who didn't know what it was and started it late at night, we did not plan on it being a 3-hour movie. Didn't look at the runtime. I fell asleep pretty early in it. Afterwards, of course, I watched it. It was great. I remember renting movies at Super Video around the corner from my house. And I would go there and I would walk down the aisles and just look at them. And I used to do this thing and it's the same thing when I would just see movie posters in the theater. It goes back to the same thing of like, my mom having the 2 VHSs is like, which one's ours? It doesn't really matter. It's going to be everyone. It's going to be in our house for everyone. And I'll go up to the posters, or I'll see these movies that interest me from the covers, and I'll say, call it, which means I'm going to own that. Mm-hmm. It'll be mine. And I would do that when I see posters on the wall of possible movies coming out, or just movies that I see on the rack at the Super Video. I think that one of the weirdest things was my parents, I guess they rented Batman and Robin.
Great movie. I'm kidding.
Great movie if you want to die from a drinking game. Coming soon, a Disaster Beast Theater. No. At some point.
Batman and Robin that's the one with Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee. No, that's the Arnold one?
No. Yes.
Oh, yes. That's the Mr. Freeze and gotcha.
Yes.
I get that's that one and Batman not Batman Forever. What's the other one that came before that one? Before Batman and Robin?
Literally, Batman Forever was the one before. You just mentioned Jim Carrey, which was Batman Forever.
That was Batman Forever. Okay.
Yep, it's all right. It took you a minute, but you got there. I'm glad we're on the same page.
I just know that like you have Batman, which is Michael Keaton, and then
nope.
No.
You're talking about for Batman and Robin and Batman Forever. Or you're talking about like the first of like the darker things post Adam West theatrical.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like when you get the Michael Keaton Batman, and then you get the next one, which is Batman Forever.
Yeah.
No, what's the one with?
Well, Michael Keaton had two movies.
Right.
He had Batman '89, which is
Batman Returns. No, that's Superman.
Batman Returns.
Gotcha. That's a Christmas movie.
Batman Returns. That's a Christmas movie, correct? Yes.
I can't wait to keep this all in and have people just choose to hate me and be like, this dumb woman tried to talk about Batman. The fuck?
You know what I like more? I can't wait for you to just keep in this conversation about. I can't wait to keep this in. You're really good at this, Allison.
I'm so good at podcasting.
I think you're really good at this. Absolutely.
I found my calling.
And but the next one that was Val Kilmer with Forever, and then Batman and Robin was George Clooney, and I'm
with
pretty
the
sure
nipples.
George Clooney's also apologized for the movie. Yes,
gotcha.
With the nipples.
Perfect.
Listen, it's okay if things have nipples. People need to get over it. I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
That's exactly
So, Batman and Robin, we got to the scene where Ivy kills the doctor that she works for and just crashes or he tries to kill her and stuff, and she becomes, that's what I mean to say, and then she becomes that, and like my mom turned it off and said it's too scary for them. And I'm like 5, so I think I'm like, okay, that's fair looking back on it, but like now I'm like, that is a cartoon. They did worse stuff on the animated series.
I feel like Adam West probably did worse stuff in the 66 series.
Well, I mean, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Yeah.
So.
Oh,
yeah. But anyways, that's like, I remember all these little things. I remember going to see Godzilla in the theater, the Roland Emmerich one with Matthew, that's a lot of fish, Broderick. And I remember halfway through getting so sick to my stomach, not from the movie, just in general, that we went outside to my mom's Volvo and I just threw up all over the back seat. Yeah. There's only been.
Don't you love memories just tied with films? And like, that's exactly why. That's how, like, whenever people talk about like movie release dates, I'm always like a 1 year off, either over or under, because I have to estimate like where I was in my life when that movie came out. Meanwhile, Frank is on it. Like, he's like, yep, when that movie came out, it was this year because I went and did da-da-da-da-da when I went to go see it, and it just blows my mind.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever tried like memory exercises? Or I know you're getting up there in years, so I figure it's just like,
and that's how this. And thank you guys for joining us this week.
So that's it. I love movies. It's all I do. It's all I focus on, and I think it's pretty. Honestly, I didn't think about it at the time, but when you ask like, what do I want to do, and the very like immediately I feel. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm misremembering this. Immediately, I said the Paddington movies.
You did.
Like, that was like immediately. It's what I wanted to do.
You did,
and it to me is kind of funny that I said, let's talk about Paddington. Let's watch Paddington and talk about it. Because the point of the Paddington films is about trying to just overcome the possibility of like sadness and negativity in the world with just trying to be positive and just being nice, being good to each other.
Yeah.
And I am a certifiable dick.
Yes.
So that's why I acknowledge it. But I that's why I thought it was kind of funny. It's like, yes, I want to talk about this. Allison, it shows that I have layers. Much like,
much
Shrek
like an onion.
Yeah. Over the top
layers.
Paulina just bought me a t-shirt today that had Shrek on it. So,
amazing.
Yeah, it's something. That's the life. Yes, it's definitely something. So yeah, I wanted to jump on this bandwagon because there's a lot of stuff that's in a lot of movies.
Yes.
And even a lot of family-friendly ones. It feels like sometimes some family-friendly movies, there's a mean streak to them, or there's a lot of negativity. And I think that one thing that really helps with these Paddington films is we seem to gravitate towards movies and shows and stories that when there's conflict, that conflict has sort of its roots in like a negative feeling somehow. It's about fighting against something, but it never has this sort of heart that like the Paddington films have, and I think that they resonate even more now for those of us who have a fucking soul, who pay attention to, the world and politics and stuff. Those who obviously don't have a soul, of course, it's going to mean fucking nothing to them, and we know how they vote. But I think that it's something, when I say it resonates more now, it's because like there is so much bullshit. You go online and you're on Twitter or you're on TikTok and you're just doom scrolling and you're just like, this doesn't look like good news. This doesn't look like good news. Climate change is real, and now there are people who are just throwing mashed potatoes at a fucking painting.
Right.
I never even asked if I could curse, but it's too late.
You're already or like the people that are what's the latest one that they did today? They took pies and threw them pies in the face of King Charles, like the wax statue of like King Charles.
I didn't hear about that one.
So yeah, so like they're
that dates this episode, guys. Look at the news to see when that happened.
But like but it's so ironic that that's what they chose to do when Charles' whole platform, like for his whole life, has actually been like environmental conservation and like global warming. Like he was talking about global warming back in like the 80s when people were like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, it's like all that stuff is like there's all that shit. It just feels like it's negative because it's like even the positive of it is like we need to come together and we got to work together. But it's like really you got to do it in such a shitty way too.
Yeah.
And to me it feels like the Paddington films are just like, here's a story about just acceptance, love, and found family, like but your family that is both blood but also found family.
Yes. One of my favorite things that I
some
love,
of the most emotional stuff out there.
Well, like one of the things that I love about this movie is it almost or like just the stories in general is like, yes, they're like a little bit surprised that it's a little bear, but they're also like, it's not like if you saw like a little bear in a train station, you'd be like, holy shit, look at that bear. Like, what's it doing here? And it's talking, like, I would lose my mind. And, like, when Sally Hawkins, when they first see him, and she's like, hello there. And just, like, calm as can be. And, like, all Hugh Bonneville wants to do is, like, figure out his homeowner's insurance because that's what he's
he's walking by. He's like, everyone just keep moving. It looks like there's some sort of bear over there.
Right. Like, it happens just don't give him attention. Like, it's never the fact that it's like a huge, it's pointed out it's a bear, but it's not like, it's not what, it drives, I think you don't say, like, it drives the plot a little bit, but, like, it's not the sole focus of it.
No, it's like one of the funny things to me is like in the first Paddington, I believe, when he goes missing,
Yeah.
right? Because he's out, and they go to the police, and it's like he's like a 3 foot tall bear. He has a hat this color. He has a jacket this, or he's 3 feet tall. His name is Paddington. He has a hat. He has a jacket, and the guy looks at them, and you go, he's a bear. I guess and then the cop just goes, well, it's not much to go on. Like, really? It's not?
Yeah. Like, are you sure? And I think, like, what I love so much about the first one, and I do like it in the second one too, but what I love so much about the first one is, like, they really, really focus on, like, the Paddington hijinks. Like, where because he is, it's your intro, right? He's learning what is going on in London. He's like the whole bathroom scene kills me. And when, like, he's in the tub after, like, the whole bathroom has leaked or, like, has flooded, and Hugh Bonneville's just, like, stands like, are you okay? And he's, like, swimming around with, like, his little oar in the bathtub, and I'm like, oh, Paddington, like, you silly old bear, you.
It's so funny to mention that there, because as I was watching that this time, I thought about how, like, oh yeah, with the marketing for this movie, you see, like, the Paddington poster, and it's just Paddington out of context, just staring off, and you're like, that's a weird image when you don't see the movie and you don't get it.
Yeah.
But, like, just like the imagery of him just doing that with, like, the toothbrushes in his ears and licking it, it's like, okay, like, it also feels like that's a super, like, childish stuff. And yet, what happens there, Paulina had pointed out as well, and when I was thinking about it too, which shows that, like, when you appreciate something, it can hit you more than just like the surface level. Oh, it's cute hijinks.
Yeah.
There's a Rube Goldberg, like, sense of, like, the machinations that go into these hijinks, where it's like, okay, he's going to go in there, going to clean himself.
Yeah.
He's just going to get ready for bed, and it turns into this giant disaster.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's that thing, it's this domino effect, and the domino effect, it just happens to also be just a wild series. Oh yeah, I'm gonna clean my ears, which turns into I'm gonna ride a tub down the stairs. Which, by the way, I know we're on the channel. You're on the show. You've never seen it. Have you seen The Shape of Water?
Yes. Oh my God, Frank actually even said, he goes, how funny is it that the woman who
Sally Hawkins has now been in 2 separate movies that involve a biped creature flooding a bathroom. Yes.
That's and not only exactly what Frank said as we were watching it.
And in Paddington 2, which, in Europe, it came out in England in 2017, the same year The Shape of Water came out. So in 2017, she was in 2 different movies where she was underwater helping save a biped creature that communicates with her. That's not a normal creature.
Good for her.
And yeah, it's like, good for her. She really found her niche. I cannot wait to see them have another similarity to The Shape of Water in the sequel Paddington in Peru that is development. Although I hope that it doesn't involve her doing things that she did with the other biped creature. So.
Oh man, I like these movies. I think I literally sent you a message after finishing it, and I'm just like, the fact that both of these, you have 2 movies that are just absolutely heartwarming and so sweet and just perfectly well done, just on the basis of being nice. And you get to watch Paddington be nice to this family, and help, get them to come around and everyone wants him to live there, to then you have Paddington 2, where, I mean, the way that ends with everyone coming together and like, the Colonel is talking about how he met his his girlfriend because of Paddington coming and cleaning the windows, and someone who
Allison, I'm going to stop you right now because if you keep talking, you're going to start crying.
I probably will because they all come together to bring Aunt Lucy to him. And then he goes, when he opens the door, he says, "Happy birthday, Aunt Lucy." And like, when I tell you I sobbed, like I'm sitting there, I'm literally watching this movie, and as like each person is talking, and then the doorbell rings, they said, "Go answer." I'm going, "No, no, no." And like, oh, it's like, good for you, Paddington. And now Aunt Lucy is there.
Yeah.
What kind of hijinks can they get into?
It feels like, right. To me, it feels like the way that I've described it. I don't know if I read it somewhere. I know it's kind of what clicks for me when I think about it. The way that there's like a specific like twee style to it, like very like it's very like of itself. So it's very everything feels, especially like I said with the hijinks stuff, like so perfectly calculated and choreographed. And like the storybook feel to a lot of it, especially with the whole pop-up book sequence in the second one, which is gorgeous. And just all these things, to me, feels a lot like it has emotion, the emotion of like the best of Pixar, but it has a lot of the style of like Wes Anderson a bit.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I think that I adore Wes Anderson. He's one of my favorites. He's one of Paulina's favorites as well. And I think that he sometimes, even in the things I love, he's so focused on like the quirkiness of some of his stuff and just the style that he doesn't always hit the heart of some of the characters or like to pull the proper emotion out. He does sometimes, but I think sometimes he kind of gets wrapped up in himself and his style. And I think Pixar, though, the thing that they always try to hit is, that emotional thing that kind of really gets to you.
Like, right,
and
usually
I feel
right
like
in
this
like
is
the first...
this really perfect meld of those two things.
Yeah. I feel like Pixar tries to get you right in those first 5 minutes, whereas you're in it for like the long haul in Paddington.
It's so I just want to take a moment to talk about the villains.
Yes. Fantastic villains. Do you prefer Hugh Grant over Nicole Kidman's character when you talk about the bad guys?
Hold on 1 second here. I'm going to pull something up here. Let's just check 2018 Academy Awards. And the reason for that is I'm looking for, I guess I'm looking for the next year, not the 2018. I'm looking for, I guess, the 2019, which is for movies that came out in 2018. Stupid the way that they organize this stuff. Best supporting actor nominations that year, there was Mahershala Ali, who won for Green Book. He was very good.
He was very
Adam
good.
Driver in Black Klansman, he was very good. Sam Elliott in A Star Is Born, he was very good. Richard E. Grant, Can You Ever Forgive Me? I loved him. Of the 5 nominees, he was my pick. I wanted to win. And then Sam Rockwell for Vice, he was fine. None of these guys, to me, even hold a candle to Hugh Grant in Paddington 2.
No, okay.
Hugh Grant is just... There's this thing that Hugh Grant does that I can't even figure out how to put into words, really. So if I'm a little wordy with it, that's why.
No.
It's this... So we all know him as just the most suave, just charismatic, charming British guy. And sometimes he can be befuddled. And, we just think of him as he stumbles over his words sometimes because sometimes he gets a little nervous and he doesn't know what he's saying. But he's also just such a sweet man. And then there's Paddington 2, where he plays that as one of the kind of people that he
Yes.
As an actor who is so up his own ass, he's also a great actor, as you can tell. He has these scenes where he's talking to himself in a mirror, and instead of talking to him, the camera will pan to as many mannequins he has with his costumes, and the costumes back to him from his voice.
Yeah.
In the voice that he would act them with. And it's like, that is the kind of performance that is like the closest thing I can think of, the ability to be able to jump that quickly from one to the other, is like James McAvoy in Split or something.
Yeah. Oh,
or
yeah,
Glass.
yeah. It's like a children's version of that.
Yes. Yeah. You know what? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Paddington 2 is the children's version of Split.
Of M. Night Shyamalan's Split.
Paddington 2. Paddington is the children's version of Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
It sure is.
There is such an incredible homage to the Burj Khalifa climbing sequence in the climax of Paddington. But instead of him using gloves with the lights on that beep up, he's using those handheld vacuums.
Yeah.
Amazing. Just amazing.
Is it
the fact that I've seen this movie so many times and this is the first time it clicked with me, what I love about that is this idea that I could love something and see it several times and then still find stuff new about it. And it's weird because I never feel like I could do that. I did here.
Were you talking about like that whole the homage to the birds? Is it in Paddington 2 where he has the toffee apples that he licks the bottom of and then he walks like he puts his little toes between the sticks of them to walk up. I can't remember what he was walking up, but it was just the cutest.
It was walking up a train.
It
was a train. They were on the train sequence at the end.
Yes. And he had his little toes in on the sticks like they're little flip-flops.
And he walks until he's upside down.
I know, Paddington.
Amazing.
Oh, I just love him so much. I love him.
And just, it's so good. All right, so I just want to say that, one thing I actually like about this, after talking about all this positive stuff, right? I guess one thing I didn't think about before was in so many other films, when you're in prison and you're pointing out like all like the rough and tumble kind of people, like the real gruff guys. Like what I love about this is how they have Brendan Gleeson in a tour de force performance as Knuckles McGinty.
Yes,
just he has this. He and the other guys do this thing that I didn't really pick up on before, which is like, you think of Shawshank Redemption and other stuff like that, Green Mile, and whatever. It's like, you're there and you're sympathetic to the actual prisoners, but their crimes too about why they're there.
Right.
With Paddington 2, they don't really address why people are there for any like substantial reason. You just see how they are in the prison, and it's these people that it doesn't judge these people as being like who they are based on their crimes.
Right.
You get to see them outside of it. And and to me, I like that too, because once again, it's another aspect where it's like, it doesn't matter what they've done. Just be kind to them and maybe they'll be kind to you.
Right. And
while it's not realistic to everyone, it's just a wonderful idea.
It really is. And it's like, even with, because when they trick Paddington into escaping with them because they're going to go start a marmalade business. And then and then they still come back and help Paddington after Paddington was like, no, I need to go find the Browns. I need to clear my name. I think that's so important. And that, like, even Knuckles McGinty realizes after, with his other pals in the plane, like, Paddington is really the best of us, and he brings out the best of us. Those hard stare scenes kill me. Where he was like, amazing. When Knuckles kept like saying mean things about Aunt Lucy, and he just kept staring at him. And it's like, that's a hard stare. My Aunt Lucy taught me when you're not being polite. Like, it's just, It's just absolute perfection. I also want to point out how much I adore the amount of people I recognized in this movie thanks to the Harry Potter franchise.
Mad-Eye Moody right there.
Mad-Eye Moody right there. You have Professor Slughorn, who is the antiques dealer.
There's this amazing miniseries, this really great miniseries that was, I don't remember what the channel was for the UK, but it was distributed on Amazon, called A Very British Scandal. And it starred Hugh Grant and Ben Whishaw. And it told the truth. It was 3 episodes. I think each episode was an hour to an hour and a half, something like that. From Russell T Davies, the guy who is now back show running the new Doctor Who stuff that's going to come out next year, and he show ran for Chris Eccleston and David Tennant. Like Doctors 9 and 10.
Time for me to get back into Doctor Who again.
I'm going to rewatch all of Jodie Whittaker to get ready because I got to do it. I'm a completionist that way.
I have to go back and watch.
At least for New Who.
I gotta watch I have not watched Capaldi or Whittaker, so I need to
So I really liked a lot of Capaldi. There's a Capaldi episode that I think is actually an all-timer of an episode. And it's right near the end of his tenure. But I got to rewatch the last couple episodes of Capaldi, at least his regeneration, because it's been a long time. Anyways, Capaldi also
in Paddington. Nice little segue. Who's not in Paddington?
Yeah.
If you're not in a Paddington movie, you've definitely been in Harry Potter.
I mean, all right, listen. So as I was saying, A Very British Scandal. Ben Whishaw won an Emmy for that performance. Rightly so. He was so good. Mm-hmm. I wish that Hugh Grant won for that performance, just like I wish he won an Oscar for this movie. But it's funny because they've worked together at least twice now because they've been great both times because Ben Whishaw is the voice of Paddington.
Oh man!
Well, now think about this. Sorry, think about this. Ben Whishaw wasn't the original voice of Paddington.
Okay.
Did you look this up and see this?
No.
The original voice was actually going back to Hugh Grant again. The other man competing for Bridget Jones's affections, Colin Firth.
Really? That was going to be Paddington's voice?
Yes, and I believe that what happened was he recorded, and they realized he feels too old.
Yeah.
It wasn't he did a bad job. He just was too old, at least for his voice and how it came across with the film. So Ben Whishaw came in afterwards. Just like how Scarlett Johansson wasn't the first choice for her. It was someone else entirely.
Really?
I didn't know that. Oh, who was it? Was it Emily Mortimer or something? Hold on. No. I'm gonna look this up. We're gonna figure this out on here together, guys. We're gonna do this right now.
Right here.
Don't worry,
right now.
I'm vamping. I'm Samantha Morton. It was Samantha Morton.
I don't know who that is.
Who Samantha Morton has been in a bunch of stuff. You'll see her in the upcoming The Whale with Brendan Fraser.
Okay.
She's in She Said, which is also about to come out. She's in the first Fantastic Beasts film, where I think she's someone. I don't know those movies. I forget them. There's a lot of she's in a bunch of stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just interesting to note. That's just a fun trivia fact. It's like this movie was made with a completely different voice, and then in the 11th hour, they switched him out.
Crazy.
And Ben Whishaw, it's like, can you really imagine any other voice coming out of his face now?
Because it's such a sweet voice. It's just so adorable. And then you have the voices of Aunt Lucy and Uncle, but I can never say it. Uncle Patuzzo? Is that how they say it? Is that Pastuzzo? That's it. We got there. We'll get there.
Yeah, I was just gonna let you go until you got it. Pastuzzo. Which, by the way, his aunt and uncle, voiced by Umbridge and Dumbledore.
Yep, the second Dumbledore. First Dumbledore dead. Second Dumbledore.
Well, of course. I mean, the first Dumbledore wouldn't have been able to record because he's dead.
Richard Harris, R.I.P. But yeah, Imelda. I mean, just so many. I mean, these are stacked movies. You have Julie Walters, Molly Weasley as Mrs. Bird. I mean, just absolutely stacked movies. And every single
Jim
person.
Slugworth. Corn,
Yeah.
not Slugworth.
Yeah.
Slugworth.
Yep.
Slugworth is Willy Wonka. My bad.
Yeah, but Professor
Sorry.
Slughorn is your antique stealer. So I mean, it's great. I'm here for it. But pretty much every single British actor or actress has been in a Harry Potter film in some way, shape, or form. So it's not.
You know, it's
surprising.
funny that you say that because I'm double check to make sure I'm right. Neither Sally Hawkins nor Hugh Bonneville, the two in-person leads of both movies, are not in Harry Potter. Neither is Hugh Grant.
No. Hugh Bonneville, though, I know from I started watching Downton Abbey.
Yeah. I watched the first episode.
I watched one episode. I've gone into, I think where I last left off was somewhere within the second season.
Yeah, I watched one episode. And that's it.
And that's where we left it.
Not that anything's wrong with it. I want to watch others.
Exactly. How many movies so far have you watched this year?
How many movies am I at so far?
Yeah.
Check right now. I'm going to vamp so that way you can't actually, cut this out of it. 408 is where I am at as of the recording of this podcast.
And where did you end? How many did you watch last year?
So I had 535 last year. Now, I am not necessarily trying to hit that same goal this year. I'm not, having said that, I am less than 10 from where I was at the same point last year, because even though I am not trying to hit that, I'm not attempting to beat it or whatever, I have been checking in on it every so often to see where
see where you are. Did you count watching Paddington and Paddington 2 as part of those numbers? So we could talk about this.
Yes, that includes Paddington 2. Yes.
Just making sure.
They're on my Twitter thread, which you can find me at Geoff1106. That is GEOFF1106. That's right. I spell my name the correct way.
The correct Geoff. But
listen, you say Geoff, everyone still says Jeffrey to the giraffe. Why don't you say Geoff to the giraffe? Huh? Right? Fuck me. I'm sorry I'm not a Toy Story.
Well, I mean, those aren't around anymore either, so ours turned into a Hobby Lobby.
They're coming back.
Are they? That'd be nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, getting back into Paddington 2 is, I would have to agree, Paddington 2 is the better of the two movies.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not saying that the first Paddington is a bad one.
No, not at all.
With talking about the first one, if you had to rank your top 3 moments from that movie, what would they be?
I would say in no particular order as of right now. I would probably go with the bathroom scene.
Sure.
That whole thing. I'm suddenly trying to think about everything, and Paddington 2 has been in my brain so much that I'm just thinking about Paddington 2 at the moment. It's very hard to actually I would say the sequence when they go into the club and Mr. Brown has to disguise himself as a woman. There is a moment, besides the intricacies of just how it works, which once again I love how complicated they were able to make things, but they're done in such a way where it's I love seeing it, and I get it immediately. I understand how ridiculous it is, but also I love it.
Yeah.
There's the moment when he hands his card to Simon Farnaby, who acted in both these movies, but he was also the co-writer of Paddington 2 as well.
Okay.
And he says to the security guard, it's here you go. And the guy says he hands him the card, the ID card, and he gives a face, and he goes, "I've lost a lot of weight." And he goes, "I can see that." And the mole points for a mole. He goes, "I had it lasered off." And and you grew your arm back. And he goes, "Oh, it's a false arm." And he gets his arm pricked. And just the way he lets it move like it's fake. It's just like it's the rule of threes type joke.
Yeah.
It's weight, mole, arm, but then on top of that, it's the way that he perfectly is able to move his arm like it's actually fake.
Yeah.
And not wince and then immediately have to change. Like, I love that. And it's obvious, like, and it works really well because it frazzles him so much that it adds to why he just unconsciously grabs, as Paulina puts it, a long sandwich.
Yeah.
She's like, that's a big sandwich. And just puts it up the vent. And of course, there's the sound design that goes with that whole sequence too.
Yes.
Afterwards, the way that it has, like, when they arrive, the sound like of like the arrival of it, the vroom of it, and then the whole suction sound, how they're able to make that work from all the different pipes to make it feel like, even though you're watching on one television screen at home right now, it still feels it's coming from multiple points.
Right.
Which is, I think, like, a really, like, sounded like great sound design. But just the sound design of the sucking and how it gets worse and, like, harder to like actually be able to process it. It's just a really, really well constructed sequence to me. Third one, that was still the second one. See, I could talk a lot about little things.
Another 2 hours spent.
Yes. And the third one might be, and once again, it's another one of those just sequences about how things happen to play out perfectly because of the choreography of it. It's when Nicole Kidman shows up to take actually, when Paddington is gone and, you know, they're blaming Mr. Brown for part of it as well. And there's this absolutely beautiful, kind of devastating a bit, the way that it's done, shot when he walks in, and it's the center of the house and it's the stairwell, and he looks at this, and the stairwell has that painting of the tree, and it's the shot where it has the blossoms on the tree. That's how it's painted, but then they all fall, and it's like it's just a sad moment.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, for sure. The bathroom scene, again, I mean, we could talk about that till we're blue in the face. That scene is just absolute perfection in every sense of the word. Another fun little note that I had watching this was when we see Nicole Kidman, and she's talking to either her assistant or someone, and it's the actor who plays Nandor on What We Do in the Shadows, which was a fun little thing. So that was great to be watching and having myself and Frank go yell, Nandor! As he shows up.
The Relentless.
Nandor the Relentless. Weird to hear him talk with a British accent, though, and not his whatever he uses.
Oh, fuck. I want Matt Berry in one of these movies so badly. So badly.
It would be so good.
They got Richard Ayoade in Paddington 2.
Yes.
And it's very important. Okay, it's very important. Okay, because it's just these guys that come from that. Richard Ayoade, I believe, was in. I haven't watched it yet. Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, and he worked on that show along with Matt Berry. Matt Berry is, of course, incredibly funny in What We Do in the Shadows.
He's amazing. They
were on the IT Crowd together,
yep, that's where I was going.
which was great. Matt Berry also, I believe. Was Matt Berry on The Mighty Boosh, or was that Richard Ayoade on The Mighty Boosh? I gotta look this up. It's The Mighty Boosh is a British sitcom,
yes,
comedy.
I do know The Mighty Boosh.
Yeah, The Mighty Boosh didn't have any of them actually. You know what it is? It's just they all feel like of a piece with their comedy.
Yeah.
And you know what it was? I was mixing them up with Noel Fielding.
Happens.
Oh no! Yeah, there is. I just saw. Oh, Richard Ayoade wasn't there a bunch, and Matt Berry. They both did pop up a bunch and stuff.
For sure.
Yeah, okay. And by the way, all episodes of the 3-season Mighty Boosh television series, directed by Paul King, who co-wrote and directed the Paddington films.
Look at this. All coming together. Look at that. Look at these little segues we got. It's great. Okay, so we got your top 3 from Paddington. Now we got to get your top 3 moments from Paddington 2.
Right. So from Paddington 2, the actual sequence itself of the pop-up book is just this incredibly beautiful imagery that conveys so much without really saying anything. Because we already know. It's funny because it's to some people, it feels really trivial that out of nowhere, he's like, my aunt's birthday is coming up, and she's done so much for me. I need to do something for her. And it just feels like such a trivial, like simple thing. And yet this movie makes it feel like the most important thing in the world is to Paddington just wants to show his aunt how much he loves her.
Right.
And that is so pretty and beautiful. And he barely had to explain it. And then they show this imagery of it, and it just, you get everything you need from this sequence without a line of dialogue.
Yeah.
It's gorgeously realized. It's stunning.
Yeah.
Another one would have to be, I think, like I said, there are things that I had said before, of course, but they bear repeating because they're that good. The scene where after Phoenix Buchanan comes back to his house and catches the Browns there, and it says, "What are you doing there?" Mr. Brown goes, I can ask you the same question. He said, "It's my house where I live." So when they finally leave, he goes upstairs to the attic to check for the book. And it's that when he sits there and he looks at himself in the mirror, but then he's looking at his mannequins with his costumes. And it's just the acting that he's able to do in that scene.
Yeah.
Is just like incredible. Just incredible. Like the way it works out, just the way the dialogue is laid out, the way he delivers it, how funny it is, but also how kind of kind of intimidating it is, because it's like, Jesus, like, is he actually just that much of a narcissist, or is there actually something wrong with him that he's able to talk to himself with this? Turns out he's just a narcissist.
Yep.
But
great song and dance number though in the credits.
Great.
To jail.
I mean, the fact that the movie basically ended like the producers.
Yeah.
Fine with it. Sure, why not? You know what? I like family-oriented material where the main character is a CGI character, have a Mel Brooks ending. We got this with the producers. We got She-Hulk with Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
Like, let's go, all right? Who's with me to make a finale to a children's program that's just Jews in space from History of the World Part 1?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then number 1, your last favorite moment.
I don't know if this is my number 1. I think the book might be it, just for the sheer beauty of it. But another one, it's always so hard for me to really rank things, so it's more like me just pulling things out that I love. Another thing that I just love from one has to be not the ending when Aunt Lucy shows up, but it's before that when they got to go save Paddington, and suddenly the town, all the people in the neighborhood, all are like, "We're gonna help you now. We're all going to Spider-Man 2 train scene this bitch," and come together
and help get the car started just to fuck with Peter Capaldi and be like, "With your
yes."
Is that a real level, or is it just your own? Or what did the corporal say? It was like, is that a real job?
Is that a real job, or is it just one that you appointed yourself
and bought a vest?
You bought a vest. That's exactly it. So those are the 3 that I'd say right now.
Oh, those are all good. No, I love those. I definitely, that whole scene with him just talking to himself is just phenomenal. Even prior to that, it was just so goofy when he catches Sally Hawkins and Hugh Bonneville with the Browns in the house. And when the excuse that Mr. Brown comes up with, and Hugh Grant just goes, "Sounds plausible. Have a good day." As they shows them out the door. I also love. It cracked me up in the prison when they give Paddington laundry duty, and he throws in his hat with the sock attached to it. And he's like, "It's just one red sock. What damage could it do?"
And even me, a colorblind person for stuff, can see the pink star swirl.
The whole scene,
amazing.
The whole time with him, like when we're seeing him in prison and just watching him mesh with the other prisoners and getting them to all start being nice to each other, like introducing them. We haven't even touched on his obsession with Marmalade at all, which makes him absolutely adorable, and how he keeps a sandwich in his hat because of what Uncle Pastuzo said for emergencies.
You want to talk about him having having something in his hat? Let's talk about the guard at Buckingham Palace and everything he had in his hat. Okay, let's talk about that. He had a 2-layer, what looked to be a roast beef sandwich at the same time. And then he had like some sort of a dessert thing. He had a whole thermos with soup and tea. And it's like you just see him hand to them. And there's Paddington looking like he's obviously a child being told to hold all of this stuff. And, yeah.
Absolutely. But it's just like, it's the cutest thing because it makes me think of like, how many times if you just wanted to keep a sandwich or like a stash of snacks like in your pockets, like having like a little secret, like it's the cutest.
The sandwich holders or compartments, as he refers to them, one of those two. For the
and when he puts on the coat,
sandwich compartment.
When he puts on the little coat for the first time, when they put that coat on
for
him,
easy.
When they put that coat on him for the first time, I audibly gasped because like I remember reading the Paddington books, right? Like those were a part of my childhood, and like you see that image of him with the red hat and the blue coat, and so when like he had the little coat on and his hat going, and I literally went, oh, because it's like it's really now it's like it really is finally Paddington, like he's all put together, he's ready to take on the world. And it's just, it was so exciting. I love him so much. He's, oh my goodness. I want my own Paddington bear.
Yeah.
To live with me. Frank would say no, though. Can't bring bears in. You know.
I guess not. That's not 3 scenes, is it? Is there any more for you?
For me, I mean, what else is there? I mean, I think I already talked about the whole train scene where he uses the little toffee apples, little candy apples as like shoes.
One thing I love about that scene too, just the train sequence in general. It's what if you saw me typing, I was writing this down so that way I wouldn't forget it. And it was how they steal the train. They get on there and it's like, J-Dog, let's go. And he goes, "My name's not J-Dog, it's Jonathan Brown, and I love steam engines."
Yeah.
And it's love the silliest thing to say, but he's so serious and you're so caught up. You're like, that is a fuck yeah line.
Yes. Well, fist pump moment if you would have it.
Exactly.
And it's one of those things too, like I love how we get all of these recaps of what the Browns have been up to in narrated letters that Paddington is writing to his Aunt Lucy. And so we just get like the quick little, like, where have they been for the last 3 years? Here's what they were doing, and here's where we are now. Yeah, it's so good.
Exposition done really well for you to be able to move them forward a bit without, actually like losing a step.
Yeah.
Speaking of a step, so there's this thing that they do in each of the Paddington movies. One scene, I believe, have them in. A step, because it involves him being on one foot. When he's trying to go down the escalator and he reads it saying, must like carry dog. Yeah, and he's reading things and he's like Drax, he's just literal with it.
Yes.
And then the second time in the second movie when he tries to get all the oranges down. And I pulled the quote. He goes, "These sacks are awfully heavy." So Knuckles says, "We'll take them one at a time then." And so then Paddington literally individually takes one orange at a time to the counter. And it's this cute thing that he's done, but they don't overdo it. It's so funny though, because when he's counting the oranges, he goes, "1 juicy orange, 2 juicy oranges, 3 juicy oranges."
Oh my god. It's perfect. I think my other favorite line from because Knuckles McGinty has his own saying, I don't do nothing for nobody.
Nothing for no one for nothing. Yes.
When Paddington introduces the family to all of his new prison friends, and Mr. Brown goes and turns when he thinks he's turning the microphone off and like makes all these comments. She's like, "Nice men, Mary. We can't trust these people." And then Knuckles is like, "We can still hear you, Mr. Brown. The light that was the light, not the microphone." And then he just turns the light back on.
You can tell from the one that says microphone.
It's got microphone written on it.
And then of course, the one quote that kind of ties all of both these movies up in this neat little bow, and it's the driving force that we talked about earlier in this movie. When he's in prison, and it's the quote that's a gift that a lot of people like to use of him too, where he says, "Aunt Lucy said,
yes,
if we're kind and polite, the world will be right." And
I love that.
Yeah, that's it. It's just be nice to people, and it doesn't matter. Like, Knuckles threatened him.
Yeah,
Knuckles was like, Paddington was supposed to feel like his life was in danger. It didn't matter how mean this person was to him.
Right.
He just reacted in a way of just be nice and be kind and see the good in people.
Right.
And it's just something that you don't really get very much. And some of these things where it's like, oh, you got to be very kind, you got to be polite, you got to be nice. There's this weird thing where sometimes it feels false, where you don't really believe that's it. It's sort of a surface level idea where it's like, oh, that's just the moral of the story. But here it's more than that. It is the very heart of these stories. If these stories didn't completely emulate that quote, if we're kind and polite, the world will be right. If they didn't take that to heart and basically have everything sketched around that feeling, then these movies, I don't think, would work the way they do. I don't know what these movies would look like if they didn't have that kindness associated with them.
Absolutely. 100%. And I think kind of with that, as we end every episode, I have to go and rate these two films now in my letterbox. And I, the 1 to 5 stars. I mean, I think it goes without saying, both of these are 5-star films. Like, how do you, and I would go back, I'd watch these in literally back to back if I could. I would see myself going back to Paddington 2 more often than the first one.
Same.
We actually, for some reason, we own like, Frank bought Paddington 2. I think it was like on sale at like Target or something one time with like the intention of us going back and watching Paddington and then watching this. And we've just had it. We had never watched it until literally
now you had
yesterday.
A chance.
Yeah. And so we have the physical media. It's adorable. It's probably going to be like, I'm adding it to my list of like things to watch when I'm feeling sad, or things like, honestly, things to watch when I need a happy cry, or just something to kind of like lift your spirits on a bad day. Cause I think it's very, what these movies do well as marketed as, I mean, they are children's movies. They're family friendly movies, but they're able to appeal to literally everyone in the way that it's been written and the way that they've done what they've done with it. It's just, these are 5-star films. Both of them, all the way, 5
Yeah.
stars for sure. Now we'll just see where they end up in my ranking. Now that I've been ranking all the movies that I've seen, but they're going to be high up there.
Absolutely.
These are absolute
I bet.
perfections of films. I mean, I'm so glad that this is what I'm kicking November off with after like a heavy horror month of like The Shining, Prometheus, the Evil Dead trilogy.
When does this episode drop?
This one,
say kick off November.
Yep, this is gonna be our first episode. This is the first episode of November. Welcome.
The first Paddington. Rewatching these, I love them. I would give the first Paddington like a 4.5 out of 5. And the reason why it's not a solid 5 might be a little bit because, you know, when you take it in stride with Paddington 2, it feels a little lesser. But that's not a bad thing. It just means that's how good Paddington 2 is.
Sure, absolutely. It's one of those things, too, where, like, there's very...
It's Nicole Kidman's villain for me.
Yeah, I think
she's a little more arch and aggressive. And even though it's still really fun, and she is eating that scenery. She is not just chewing it. She is just full on just inhaling it. She's swallowing that shit. And she's great. It just feels like it's almost a little too arch sometimes.
Yes. Agreed.
Meanwhile, Paddington 2 is, and will be my favorite film of 2018. I think it's the best film of 2018 when it came out in the US. Fuck you, UK. I know that it came out in 2017 for you guys. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about where I am. Because these are my choices.
We're talking about the U.S. only.
Yeah, absolutely. U.S. Best country in the world, unless you ask many people.
America. Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. But I think that it is... I said this when I did my little tweet thread thing for it. The world is a literal garbage fire. Yeah. Things are just falling apart. There's constant doom and dread. And staying up all hours on our phones, just seeing dumb shit to just pass the time, to feed our brain, to distract us. Just, there's so much negativity that, as complex and layered and incredible as some movies were in 2018, like The Favorite or Eighth Grade or Black Klansman or Black Panther, like all these different things, Blind Spotting, the Bad Times at the El Royale, I really dug, like stuff like that, The Sisters Brothers. I'm just listing a lot of 2018 now. All these incredible projects that bring so much to the table for conversations that need to be had, or that maybe have been had before, but you have to hear it again, or it brings new ideas to something. Battle is exhausting. It is exhausting. And sometimes what you need is something that is just genuinely there to be the film version of keeping you up.
Yes.
So
yeah, that's the best way to put it.
2 is one of my favorite films of all time.
I love that. That's amazing. That's the best. Yeah, a movie that's giving you that's the best words that I think could be used ever to describe it.
For sure. Like, if you're anxious and you're sad and you just want something to pick you up, I put it up there for me. There's that, along with like Sing Street and Popstar Never Stop Never Stopping and Lilo and Stitch and The Emperor's New Groove. Just there's these handful of movies that I know I know that Marcel Duchamp is going to add on there. I've only seen it just came out this year. I didn't add it yet, but that's going to be in that conversation as well. It is pretty much perfect for any occasion.
Absolutely, for sure. And on that note, because I feel like that's the best way you kind of ended it, just with the way that you described it. My dear friend, Geoff Alterman, where can people find you? What you got going on?
You could find me here in my office occasionally, but most of the time I do my work in other rooms of the house. You could find me at GEOFF1106. That is my Twitter. That is my Instagram. That is my email. What's the handle for the email though? Which one? Only time will tell. You'll find out. Maybe. I got, I don't know where the channel is going to be doing it for, but I'm going to be doing with AJ Lancaster and Jack Mayer. Soon we're going to be doing a series, a retrospective on M. Night Shyamalan. It is aptly titled The Podcast That Makes You Old. Much like when I did The Family Show, which was the Fast and Furious retrospective, it was a show that was born out of a title and not the other way around, much like an Asylum production. And other than that, Disasterpiece Theater will come back at some point. I've just been busy living my life and drinking at places that aren't at my desk on a Saturday night. And with that, I'm turning it over to the host of the show to close it out. There you go.
And everyone, if you guys are enjoying what you're hearing, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review Flick and Reel on whatever audio platform you're listening to us on. If you're listening on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe, like, and comment your thoughts on Paddington and Paddington 2. And be sure to check out and comment your thoughts on any of the other previous films I've discussed. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notifications for anytime we have new content drop. And you can follow the show on Twitter at NeverSeenItFNR. And you can follow me at Allison Salamone. And until next time, my friends, be safe. I gotta keep going and watching some movies. See ya.